Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ed Carbajal. Ed, International Fight Week, we made it to. Uh, Lots of ups and downs, but also, before we get into that, interesting announcement in the world of combat sports. What did we get over the last, week?
Well, I mean, the biggest one that I got lit of fire, you know, we talk about it a lot that sometimes combat sports with all the bullshit and all the influencer marketing or whatever the hell the way it is now, so it's hard to stay interested. And I like it when a fight of interest pops up, whether it be boxing, MMA, kickboxing, whatever, even if it's in Japan, something that'll make you say, hey, man, this is why I watch this. Jake Paul is now facing Mike Perry on the original booking date that he was supposed to fight Mike Tyson. It's going to be in Tampa now versus Texas, July 20th. It's being promoted through MVP Promotions, an 8-round boxing match, and I feel like this is this is uh this is more exciting than him facing a 58-year-old Mike Tyson or 57 or however old he is. I mean, it's definitely a more. There's something about the if there's a what if factor for a fight, it's definitely in this one because Mike Perry is somebody that I feel like Jake Paul. He's probably sitting at home saying, "Jesus, maybe I shouldn't have done this."
Yeah, I mean, we hinted at this our last show, and we've seen this rumored, and I pointed out the issue in my mind with um, the Perry being relevant and
Mm-hmm.
how in his sport, although it's bare knuckle, it still is a form somewhat of boxing.
Mm-hmm.
And how it wouldn't look great if you were to lose. I don't know. It adds. I don't know if it's more exciting than the Tyson fight just because of the whole spectacle that might have brought at
Mm-hmm.
Cowboy Stadium. But as far as a fight goes, it obviously carries a ton more credibility and a ton more weight, and there's actually some legitimate. I mean, there's consequences in this fight. I would say
Mm-hmm.
extremely for Perry. Um, Jake Paul probably fights Tyson down the line anyway. I mean, it really win or lose, assuming he doesn't get just flatlined. Um, but
Yeah.
it's interesting. The scary thing is I'm kind of leaning towards Jake Paul just
Well,
based off of
yeah.
his size and
Well, not
his
even that. I mean,
you
it's
know
funny. I forget the gentleman's name. I mean, we follow each other on Twitter, and he's one of these betting guys for combat sports. He does it for one of the outlets. I'm sorry. I think it's Jay. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting your name. But he posted the early odds, and it had Jake Paul as a favorite. And I chimed in because I mean it makes sense because number one, it's being promoted through his production company, which means he's the A side, so he probably has a lot of say in the ring that they're using and how thick it is. And he's probably with the time and the money he has to focus on. He's probably going to focus on. I see him doing a lot of footwork, because Mike Perry's dangerous in the BKFC circle, right? Because there's not a lot of space to run away, and anyone that stands in front of Mike Perry, regardless of your skill level, if you're better than him or not, he's going to. The case in point is the Eddie Alvarez fight. Eddie Alvarez was head movement. I thought he was outscoring as far as trading punches goes, and it just took one punch to end the fight. I think Jake Paul is probably smart enough to say use a bigger boxing ring, something I'm more comfortable moving in, and not him. And so he's the ace. Him being the ace side, I think there's a lot that favors him. And I mean, the only thing I wanted to say though, because I remember you said that about Mike Perry kind of like losing a little of his fire if he loses. I don't think he has anything to lose in this fight because if he loses, like me watching it, I'm like, if he loses it, it's because of those things I mentioned, and it's boxing. You put gloves on the man,
if he
and
loses a
you know.
decision, if he loses a semi-competitive a
Mm-hmm.
competitive decision, I agree with you. If he gets knocked out by Jake Paul, how does he go stand on the top of bare knuckle fighting championship? I mean, you start to become the butt of jokes then. I mean,
Yeah,
as much as, I want to give Jake Paul credit because I believe he's actually taking this seriously.
yeah, he has.
Um, but and that's opposite of the way our opinions in day one. We went full circle on this whole
Oh yeah,
whole
yeah.
situation with him, and we'll admit that that's where we're at. If he gets, I just it seems to me he loses. He doesn't. People on the street right now, Mike Perry is the dude. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? If you lose to a YouTuber in any comp, I don't care if it's air hockey, you know, you lose a little bit
Yeah.
of credibility. I would think so. Um, I don't know. That's the way I kind of see it. Is right now, like, because I know Mike Perry's not the best fighter in the world, right? Like we saw
Mhm.
it in fighter, MMA fighter specifically, or overall everything mixed. Mike
Yeah.
Perry's not a world champion. He's not even a world champion in BKFC, but he's that dude. He's the guy
Yeah.
going out there and just knocking people's teeth out. And
Yeah.
if you don't, I feel like you got to carry that with you. I feel like you got to keep that up as long as you can. And when you give
Mhm.
any chance, and he's probably making enough money where it doesn't even matter. That's
Yeah.
that's the real that's the hidden thing there is, when you're making more than you're going to make in any of your other fights, it's easier to potentially have some of your train derailed, I guess. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I'll be rooting for Mike Perry. I just don't know how it unfolds. I don't know how the size comes in, because if Perry was boxing Anderson Silva next weekend,
Mhm.
who would you have picked?
Mhm.
Let's say they're boxing at 210 pounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Perry's
mean,
a 170-pound fighter traditionally. Obviously, he flexes up to 185 ish and stuff for BK. But I feel like there's going to be a size discrepancy.
mhm. I mean, he was talking about that on the Overdogs podcast recently. I saw a clip that they posted, and I mean, but he says, I mean, he's training with heavier guys. He says that he's training with like guys that are at heavyweight for boxing numbers, and I mean, and that's kind of a common thing no matter what gym. Like, you go to a gym where people are training, they're just training with each other. They're not matched up at weight class or anything like that. So I don't know if that matters as much as the media will make it out to be. I think I see Jake Paul playing footwork, counter punching, and moving away. It's not like MMA where you can get scored against for moving away. I mean, boxing they favor that, it's footwork and ring generalship or whatever the fuck they call it. Um, but it is something that's looked at differently than an MMA.
It'll
And I
also
think
be 3 rounds, 3 rounds compared to 2 for BKFC,
yeah, yeah.
and likely what 8 to 10 rounds probably, as opposed to
I think it's
5 in
yeah, I
BKFC.
forgot what the press release said. It's either yeah, 8 to 10 rounds. I forget. I know I posted it with the rules and everything when it got announced, but it slipped my
Regardless, it
mind.
has its
Yeah.
potential to be the longest fight in Mike Perry's career in a long time.
Yeah. And
If
that's what and that's why I think Jake Paul's probably more looking at fatiguing him and making him swing and miss versus trying to, I mean, standing and trading with him, he probably already knows that's going to be a mistake.
that would yes,
Yeah.
correct. That would be
Yeah, so,
foolish, but
but it's fun, man. It's something that's it's, if you talked about with, I mean, this is a good way to transition into the other news we didn't get into last week because it happened while we were off last week. But the news with the fight with McGregor being off, that was supposed to be our peak thing of the summer, and I mean, not that Perry versus Paul is on that level, but I mean, as far as excitement goes, the way the news came, it excited me enough to have me thinking positively versus negatively. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean the McGregor thing was a disappointment. It was a disappointment. I kind of saw it coming. We obviously were speculating. We didn't know the reason why, but we
Hmm.
both knew right up front that there was something wasn't right. Um, even though we both said, "Hey, McGregor's never missed a fight," something just didn't seem right. It was something was different than the previous 10 years,
Hmm.
of his fights. Um, so the UFC managed to turn around. They pulled off Bahia versus Prohaska, which
Hmm.
is an outstanding fight. I'm gonna give the UFC credit where credit's due here. Um, it seems like they were kind of hit with a tough decision.
Hmm.
I'm not a fighter, but I have banged up my toe before. I'm extremely surprised that that is the reason that this fight isn't happening.
Yeah.
If that is the reason, then I'm actually kind of shocked because I don't even know where this goes for McGregor. I can honestly, it'd be hard for me to see him ever fighting again. I
Well.
and I mean, I will never, at least speaking for myself, I can't put money down on a guy who will pull out of a fight 30 days in advance for a banged up pinky toe. Like
Yeah.
that, like I can't do that. Like I've seen NFL players cut off fingers in the middle of games to stay in games. Like,
Yeah.
like I get it. But he says he's never going to fight unless he's 100%. I got news for you. Me not being a fighter, you're jiu-jitsu, you're expert at what you do. There's not a day that goes by you're not banged up. You can't train
No.
jiu-jitsu for a week and be like,
So,
"Hey, I'm going into a tournament 100%." That's
and there's a lot
impossible.
of guys that are coming out, like even Johnny Ablin talked about how he fought one of his title defenses with a broken toe. I mean,
Bahia has
there's
multiple broken toes right now,
but you know,
and
multiple
he
broken.
took his spot.
I've I've dislocated. Yeah. I dislocated my pinky toe, and I mean, I was alarmed at first, and then after my instructor made fun of me about it, I mean, I still just taped it up and came back and trained that week. I mean, I made like a modified, pinky toe boot part of tape the situation, and that's what I did. But I mean, listen, you gotta it's his life and his health. And one thing I want to say is because I wanted to write a piece on it, and I didn't know he put it out 4 days ago. Dr. Brian Sutterer. I know there's some other doctor out there that does like UFC injury breakdowns, but he likes to do it TikTok style with the fucking 60 seconds. And Dr. Brian Sutterer, who has a YouTube channel, he goes into a lot more detail. So he did that 4 days ago. He did that with and zoomed in. I mean, it's a fracture. The toe is actually broken, and his assessment as a professional in the field of medicine, it's a 8 weeks to heal. And he would have pulled him from the fight medically if he had anything to do with it. So I don't know who. I mean, we know. I can tell you after cornering a fighter last weekend or the weekend before myself, I can tell you the fucking commission wants to get their chunk of change too. So they half give a shit about how injured a fighter is. And I think that I don't know, man. I mean, I don't want to fault him. I think it's because of him making fun of, and I think Matt Brown just said this too. Um, he made that joke about when RDA hurt his foot when they were supposed to fight, and now it's like the tables are turned. So I think it's a lot of karma coming at Connor. But as far as him ever fighting again, man, I mean, he's talking September. That was one of the bigger news things that came out of the Bellator event over the weekend was that Connor was there cornering Sinead Kavanaugh, and Severe MMA got a really good interview with him. If you haven't seen it, I shared it on Saturday. Go to their YouTube channel; it's probably their top video, and they get an update from him where he talks about he's looking at September, October, and since that happened at the same time as the Saudi Arabia card, and Dana White was there, and people saw a video and asked him if that worked for him. Excuse me. Dana White's pretty much like, I'm not talking about Connor because it's too much of a fucking
He's not fighting. He's not
yeah.
fighting in August. He's not fighting in September. The tickets would
Mm-hmm,
have to be on sale. There's not even events that are
mm-hmm.
created yet. They're not going to create a pay-per-view in the middle of
And they're
two
not
other
going to put him in
pay-per-views.
November but what are they going to bump John Jones to number 2? None of those guys will co-main event ever again there because of who
No,
they are.
they and McGregor's not going to. He's not. He's already said he won't have. He's obviously he prefers weak cards under him. It's because he likes to have the whole spotlight. So
Mm-hmm,
they're not going to do that. I think behind the scenes the UFC's got to be pissed.
mm-hmm,
Pissed big time, and not pissed that he hurt his toe, pissed that toe caused him to pull out, because there's a bottom line. There's a reason why listen, if it was serious, like in the world of combat injuries going into fights, why didn't Connor
mm-hmm.
just tell us 3 weeks ago?
Yeah,
He was embarrassed by it. It wasn't until Chael accused him of going to rehab where he felt like he had to
yeah,
post something. And
yeah,
honestly, he should have just said he's going to rehab. It would have been better. It would
yeah,
have been better. If you
yeah.
imagine if Chandler had pulled out with that toe injury, what would Conor McGregor be saying right now?
Oh yeah, he'd do the same thing he did with RDA.
It'd be
But
worse. It'd be worse.
yeah,
RDA's foot was 3 times the size.
yeah,
McGregor could literally put some makeup on his toe and it looked the same.
yeah.
I mean,
So
I like he
I
should have
just
put more makeup on like 3 of the toes and been like, my foot's fucked.
yeah.
Like to
But
put him
wait.
like
I want to backtrack to what you said about the UFC being pissed, because one thing that we got to mention before we look at the card. I mean, yeah, and the card's good still. I like the card a lot. But it's
it's
not what we
better.
were.
It's better than what it was.
It's yeah,
It doesn't have the spectacle, but it's a better
yeah.
card.
and it's a better card. But the thing is, you're getting a better card, and yeah, either way, the UFC makes money. Just for folks to understand it. But with there's folks literally posting. I wish I could remember the name of these accounts, but they're posting the ticket sale, refund, and resells like over
Yeah, I
since
mean,
that
I've been
happened.
monitoring it. So, like, it's okay. So, again, credit where credit is due
Mm-hmm.
because we badmouth the UFC a lot. The refund process was easy and seamless for me. I
Mm-hmm.
I reached out directly. The way I get my tickets is more complicated. I can't go directly to Access or Ticketmaster. I rather than bother the UFC, I chose to because I figured it was chaos in the office.
Mm-hmm.
I called the arena. I called T-Mobile Arena directly. T-Mobile Arena was able to handle it. I had my money back in my account within one business day.
Mm.
Probably, I mean, in my account in one
Yeah, it's
business
good.
day. So it was eligible for me to then rebuy tickets. I ended up getting a couple $100 back, or close to a couple $100 back, and my seat is upgraded 4 levels. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm now sitting where I would choose to sit if I went
Mm-hmm.
to an event.
Not the nosebleeds. Yeah.
I mean, some might consider it nosebleed. Front row, center, upper level is my seat. I like the looking straight into the cage. That's my jam.
Mm-hmm.
All the way up top, I get it. All the way in the corners, I get it. When you're center, front row, to me, that's dialed in, and I think they're the best seats in the arena. I've always said, other than the first 5-10 rows from the cage, but on the rise, after 3 rows on the floor, you might as well be looking at someone's back of somebody's head, um,
Yeah.
or something.
But
Um,
so because of who runs them and who owns them, the Endeavor TKO conglomerate, Zaibatsu, the what they are now, like they make money either way. Like it's still going to be a sellout. They're still going to record a sellout, but what they could have made versus what they're going to make, they always want to make more money, and they're not going to make the money that they thought they were going to make. So in that sense, I'm pretty sure, like you said, that they are pissed off, and now
yeah,
they're probably, like you said, they're. I mean, not that the thing is we talked about it, Connor's never done it before. It's the first time he's ever pulled out. So I mean, I don't think they should blackball him so fast. But we don't know what's going on in negotiation rooms. We don't know what's happening behind closed doors. I mean, it's not the Connor that was. It's not the 2015, 2016 Connor. This is
no.
millionaire, billionaire.
The good news for the UFC is that they were able to replace Connor with their number 2 pay-per-view guy.
Yeah.
Pahea between Madison Square Garden for UFC 300, he's carried some massive gates.
Mm-hmm.
Not the anticipated like 25 million. I think this one was roughly aiming for somewhere in that ballpark. But I bet you it still ends up doing 16 plus, which puts it probably top 10 all time in UFC history, if not top 5. And probably top like 3 or 4, if not a McGregor card maybe. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's there. It's still expensive tickets because it is International Fight Week. There still is that premium tack on to that. So that is something that also went into account when not only buying the initial tickets but rebuying the tickets, because you still realize this is still the event of the summer,
Yeah.
and they got a good fight. So we got the new title fight. We got Diego Lopez and Brian Ortega, which is an
Mm-hmm.
outstanding fight. Probably likely pulled from the Sphere card. And moved forward, I would think. Anthony Smith's now fighting Roman
Oh yeah.
Doliza.
Let me just
You
bring
know,
it up. I might as well
yeah,
bring
yeah,
it up.
we'll bring it up. I'm just, those. So we got changes, but I think it's all working out for the best. I think that the people who ended up, getting their money back, and then whether they chose to rebuy or just going to watch on pay per view, I think everybody's going to end up. The only people who get killed are people who are traveling from Ireland that weren't able to change their stuff.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
why it hurt. That's why it seems like it's more of a gut punch to his really hardcore fans.
And I know you just ran through the main card though, but I mean, you look at who's on the undercard, man. I mean, there's some folks on here that you want to keep an eye on, like Payne Talbot's a rising star that's on the undercard. But this is the early prelims. Look at who's on the early prelims. Fucking Michelle Waterson, Jillian Robinson, Andre Arlovsky, Ricky Simone, and Vinicius
The first
Oliveira
fight of
open
the
up.
night's gonna be a banger. Yeah, I know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's turned out it's got some depth. It was top light early
Mhm.
on, with the McGregor, and then once the Roundtree dropped out, we were left in. You didn't know what. I mean, at that point, the whole card was. non-existent essentially, and probably would have been canceled if this wasn't International Fight Week. It kind
Yeah.
of had that vibe, and then they were able to put all this together in quick time. So yeah, I mean the prelims. Go back down the prelims real quick. There was like you said, the Watterson and Robertson fight.
Hmm.
Robertson and I'm sorry, and Watterson. Arlovsky, great, move on up, and then I mean that's the early ones, like you said. That's not
Yeah.
even ESPN. This is
This is on Fight Pass, and then the ESPN.
like you said,
Uh,
Talbot.
yeah, I
Charles
mean,
Jourdain
this
always
is
puts on a
somebody on
good
the
fight.
rise that seems to be picking up some steam. Cub
Long
Swanson,
time
Andre
OG,
Fili.
OG from my neck of the woods or my part of the map. Cub Swanson against Andre Fili. I mean that has fight of the night written on it. Joe
Hmm.
Pfeiffer versus Baralt. Baralt was a main card fight up until the reshuffle. So that
Hmm.
goes down to the prelims where it probably belongs, but it adds depth to the card.
Yeah, no,
And
I actually like you. Yeah, I like this main card way better than what we had earlier. I wasn't even paying attention to it outside of the main event and this fight. But now you got Brian Ortega and Diego Lopez. It's definitely it's catered more towards the hardcores, I would say.
well, there's more numbers on the screen. Like
Hmm.
when you go to these, you want to see ranked guys. So like
Yeah.
even and the Deliza Dolize change, like that was last minute again. He's
Hmm.
3 or 4. They um, Olberg was supposed to be there before, so at least there's names. I like the Ortega Lopez fight. That fight's fun to me. It is 3 versus 14, which is kind of a weird discrepancy, but I kind of like seeing that recently with we saw it with Denise uh, and Poirier and some of that other stuff. So I like guys giving other guys shots. I think it's a fun fight, not only on paper, but I think it'll produce. So let's just go
Hmm.
ahead and start with our picks. Let's start at the bottom of the main card here, the opening fight of the night.
This
Ian, my
low key my fight my like my main event. I mean, I like the other fights, but this fight. This is the one I'm really excited for.
It is in a sense that I'd like. This
No
is the one.
odds.
This is
I'm
the fight
surprised there's
like
no
where
odds for
this
this
will be
one.
the fight where I like really have a rooting. Let me think. There's not really any other. The other ones can go any way they really want as long as the fights are good. I want MVP to win this fight badly.
Hmm.
I really do.
So
Um,
do I.
you know, uh, Gary is a undefeated fighter, but you know, MVP's losses aren't to slouches. So I think if at this point, if he was fighting Limas and some of those other guys, that Gary's career might be, who knows, he might have a nick on it too if he fought him a couple years ago. But uh, gosh, I really have no idea how to pick this fight. I hope it's not just. I hope somebody. I hope MVP's able to land something. I hope he doesn't kind of shell up and just
Mm.
do the
I don't
Fernando
think he will.
Gonzalez
No.
version or the guy that fought the some of the guys that weren't fights that weren't so exciting. I think he's
Yeah.
here. I think he knows he's electric. I if the UFC blows an opportunity, if they don't let him do some kind of special entrance here, he should come first to the cage in this fight, and he should come out with something to get that crowd going. If we
Well,
get
I think that's the reason for his placement too. I mean, the UFC it makes me think of something that the Zone said to when they signed with Bellator, when I asked a bunch of questions to James Rushton, the guy that was running it at the time, or whatever his name is. There's the Zone's weird now, but I had asked him about like how do you measure what you want to do and what folks are interested in. He said we do a lot of social listening. Obviously, they do not, but I think the UFC actually does, because I think this is a fight that they have on, not just because of who the men are, but I think it's a fight that they're going to be monitoring their analytics socially to see, like you said, like what you just said about Paige having an entrance. They're going to read the pop in the room, and they're going to look at the trending online, and obviously the result of the fight will determine, like this is another UK star they could build a big UK card off of. And Michael Page, they already know he packs the house. He packed the house with Bellator. Um, I think I think he's somebody that the UFC, they probably want him to succeed. I mean, Gary, he's got his personal stuff online, and the fans are kind of 50-50 with him or whatever their deal is. So I think Michael Page is the guy that if the marketing machine wants someone to win, it's Michael Page. I mean, not just us. It's the UFC. I think wants MVP to win too.
I think they come out good no matter what, because
Yeah.
you have a 15-0 fighter with coming off a win over Venom Page, the big free agent guy, kind of standing up for the UFC in theory.
I mean, he's
But
got like
yeah,
a 4 or 5 inch reach. I'll edge, so I'll give that to Page too, along with his his wily way of striking. I think he can screw with Gary and probably pop him a couple of. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a round 1 or 2 TKO for Page.
I'll be hoping, man. If that happens, I'll pop
You'll
the
throw
Reno
yourself
pop.
off the
No,
the
no, no,
fourth row or whatever you said.
front row. If I throw
Yeah,
myself over that, I ain't coming back for
yeah.
next week's show. Uh, the one fight I kind of wish was on the prelims, but you got to kind of do the thing. Myra Buena Silva
Yo, can you before
versus.
we move on?
Yep,
Why don't they have odds for him, Gary Page? I like now. I'm really because if I'm going to bet money, this is the fight I'm betting on.
I don't know.
I don't have my phone with me, but an odds checker sucks, so I'm not going to go check on them anymore. But
So yeah, Myra Buena Silva versus Macy Chiasson. Not a terrible fight. Hopefully, I'm pulling for Chiasson to pull out something violent here. Um, Buena Silva's got to earn some credibility back after I had to sit there and watch her and Pennington fight for 25 minutes. So
their son's
she's
the underdog too.
she's favored. That's fine. I mean, she's more high profile. Had the title fight. Chiasson obviously won the Ultimate Fighter.
Oh yeah,
but,
that's yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna go with Macy. I'm gonna go with TKO. I'm gonna go third round. I maybe more hope, but hopefully it's an exciting fight. I kind of would have liked to see Cub Swanson Andre Feely here, though, just out of respect for Cub or Arlovsky for that matter. Like, I know Arlovsky's been on a downhill slide, but like at some point he's going to have the final fight of his career. I don't think on International Fight Week would have been the worst case for him to go out and leave his gloves in the cage, considering he's been in there for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
But
that's weird. His name on the prelims is weird, but
I get it on the prelims if he was like the top ESPN one, but on the early prelims throws me off a little for Arlovsky because I feel like it's a little bit, the early ones, like thousands of people will be watching that. Not, you know what I mean? Like single thousands, not. Now Anthony Smith, Roman.
Didn't he just fight though, like not too long ago?
Anthony Smith, yeah, he just came off of a win at a 301.
And that's my concern for him because I feel like when he's done that in the past, it didn't work out for him too well. And I'm rooting for Anthony Smith and I'd like him to win, but a quick turnaround like that always makes me weary of how he's gonna do.
I hear that. He looked really impressive in his last fight against another up and comer. I feel like you're probably right in a sense that like his time's gonna eventually come. I think I said that going into his last fight, and then he ended up having a tremendous showing and a quick finish in his fight. I'm gonna pick Anthony Smith just to go the other way. I kind of feel like it's more of a coin flip fight. Does this one have odds yet?
No,
it's because they just added that.
Yeah, no, that one I get.
So.
But the Gary and Page one that should be up already. I'm gonna definitely.
Dolize's on a 2-fight losing streak, so obviously that's something to see how that unfolds. But I'll go with Anthony Smith. I mean, Petrino in his last fight, first round finish. Let's see. I mean, he's kind of motivated. He has this thought in his mind like he's getting the title shot. Lines up with Pajea.
Well,
and
it's
he's not
funny.
a terrible matchup for that guy either. No. So there is some things that could. I mean, we could end up in a real upside down world here sooner than later.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. But one thing, I mean, about taking the fight at the short notice and stuff like that, and as we lead into the Ortega Lopez fight, Brian Ortega recently just talked about this when he talked about where he stands and why he wants to move up to lightweight, and this is a featherweight bout, but he's talking about moving up to 155 and. Or there's this fight. It says featherweight bout on the thing here, but he's talking about moving up to 155, and he said like one of the reasons he said he doesn't see himself getting a shot is because the guys in front of him they did these favors for the UFC, i.e., taking fights on short notice and stuff like that, And so to your point, I that's probably why Anthony Smith is doing it. He knows the clock is ticking on his career, and if he can win a couple of short notice fights, then why not, right? Why not fast forward? Rankings mean nothing anyway in the UFC, so favors count more. And if they know that's how the game, if the fighters know that's how the game is played, then why can't fault them for doing it?
Correct. And the thing with Anthony Smith is he's fighting somebody on even shorter notice, so
Yeah.
it's a little less of, he's not fighting somebody off a full camp, um, or even anything like that. This fight right here, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I really, it's a great fight.
Mm-hmm.
Lopez has been on fire. He looks like he's the next champion down the line at some point. Ortega just seems to never fight. I know he does. It just seems like it's so few and far between recently, um, which obviously it has been. He's fought a little bit recently, but I man, I feel like if it turns into any kind of slugfest, I think Lopez hurts
Mm-hmm.
him. Um, I feel like Ortega
Just
definitely
because he
has.
doesn't wear damage that well. I agree with you. Yeah.
No, and I don't think he's the greatest striker in the world. I don't, I don't feel like he's
Oh no,
in
yeah,
a, in
that
a,
too.
in a
But
you know.
when if anyone that he trades with, even the fights with the fights with what's his name, fucking Flippy, um, the hell the Mexican flipper, what the guy that he lost and then he beat, Yair Rodriguez,
Oh,
uh, uh, you know, even both fights, like he came out more bloody, even though he wound up winning the last one, but yeah, I mean, so or. Antoine's saying he's picking Ortega. Amazing chin and fought better chin competition, and I agree with that. But if I mean, I feel like this might be if it's at featherweight because his conversation or what he said might be throwing me off. But um, if it's at featherweight, maybe
Tapology
favors him.
has it
But
at 145.
yeah, okay, so then it is featherweight. So then yeah, I mean, but like you said, Lopez is somebody. Lopez is scary, for a scary fight for him to take. It looks like he's got a reach advantage over him based on the stats on the UFC.com website. Um, I'd
I mean,
like Brian
Ortega's
Ortega to win,
probably the
but
smart pick. He's ranked number 3.
mhm,
Everything that Antoine just said, it all makes is true to chin competition. It's just a matter of, have you have you peaked, and are you
mhm.
now going to fight the new kid that's going to come in here and
And
run
this
it for the
kid's
next couple
bigger. This
years?
kid's bigger. I'm not going to be surprised if Lopez wins. I'd like Ortega to win, but I'm not going to be surprised if Lopez wins.
Kind of the same boat. I think it's a bit of a coin flip, and I think it's just where the fight takes place.
Hmm.
So, and it's
Yeah,
three round fight, not a 5-round fight. So,
yeah.
you know, you never know that no judge are going to judge. Like you said, Ortega, he has a great chin, but if he comes out there with, a couple bloody eyes and a
Hmm.
busted nose, even if he's landing stuff, that seems to always carry weight.
Hmm.
Obviously, that even though it's not supposed to in theory, judges are human, and when you see somebody looks beat up, you tend to think that. So I don't know. Fun fight though.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely
I'm
going to
all I'm
be
all about the fight. I
FOTN. I wouldn't be surprised if this gets fight of the night.
Yeah.
At the end of the bonus.
Main
Um,
event. Alex Bahia, champion, former middleweight, current light heavyweight champion. Yuri Proska,
rematch.
former light
Yeah.
heavyweight champion. Rematch from Madison Square Garden. Whew. God, I like that 30-4 on Yuri. That's an old school.
Mm,
That's kind of an old school record a little bit right there. I'm going Yuri Proska. I think he was doing well in the last fight. I think Pahea is taking a lot of action and really doing the right. I think he's doing a great thing because he's making a
mhm.
ton of money. He's getting a great reputation. He's saving cards. He's fighting on the biggest cards. Um, win or lose, he still gets whatever fight he basically
Mhm.
wants. If he wants John Jones at heavyweight or whoever the heck he wants after this fight, win or lose, he pretty much gets it
Yeah,
based off of what he's done, and he deserves it. Um,
that's kind of chimes in with what Antoine's asking here. If he does step up to heavyweight and beats John Jones, does that make him the greatest artist of all time, or at least top three? I mean,
I don't know if I'd say martial artist. Would it make him the? mm, It's hard. It's hard because is he the most skilled all around martial artist? I would say no. Um, he's a kickboxer who got decent defense or good ground defense now. I would say. I mean,
Well, he imposes
there
his will.
he imposes
He
his will,
yeah.
but the greatest top three in the UFC all time. I mean, I could call him I could call him. I could get him there if he beats Jones and knocks out Jones. I'd call him the best UFC champion of all time. Would I say he's the best
Yeah.
martial artist? Is he better than Demetrius Johnson? Is he better martial artist than John Jones? Even if he
I mean,
beats him, it's hard. It's hard
I
overall.
would
But
say if that does happen, which I don't see it happening, but if that does happen, like he wins this fight and then he winds up fighting John Jones at some point. 'Cause I think John Jones, if he does fight Stipe, I think he's done. But if he does, if they that would be a mega fight to make if he wins this fight, moves to heavyweight. But if Pereira beats John Jones, he's what Fedor is to Pride. That's what he would be in the UFC.
correct. And another thing, real quick here. In my mind, you can be the GOAT and not be the best.
Mhm.
I know that sounds that because in my mind, because Ali is the GOAT, but was he the greatest boxer of all? I mean, you got Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean, you got guys that like Mayweather. As much as we don't like him, has a heck of a resume. Um, so I don't know. To me, the GOAT doesn't have to like people can say McGregor's the UFC GOAT because of what he did around the whole game, but is he the best fighter? I mean, to me, the best fighter probably in UFC's history at this point is John Jones. If he goes in there and annihilates him,
Mhm.
and John Jones is taking it seriously, which I would assume he would if that fight were to ever happen, which, like you said, I agree with you. I don't think it does. Best mixed martial artist, no, but great GOAT fighter in the UFC. If he wins 3 belts the way he's doing it and he's able to dispose of John Jones, um, it really. I mean, I kind of agree with Chael a little bit, and I'm Fedor Stan. It would be right now. He's kind of my favorite fighter, and I'm picking against him in this fight because these are probably my two favorite current active fighters right now.
Yeah.
But
And do you think that? I mean, I mean, do you think the short notice, kind of with the odds, they still have him as a -155 favorite according to the DraftKings odds up on the website,
I
but
like how Paya's toes even look broken in the picture right there. Like they're all
oh
twisted
yeah,
and mangled, and
yeah,
here we got.
hmm
I mean, they look worse than the picture McGregor just posted.
yeah. Look at that.
Amazing. But yeah,
So you think Jerry wins this time?
I kind of do. I kind of think
Okay.
he was doing well in the last fight. I think he will probably use some of his takedowns, and I think will be I think he's going to confuse him. I think his wacky style is enough to throw Pahea off. Obviously,
Yeah.
if he takes one to the chin, we know where that's going. I kind of feel like he gets his belt back. I don't know.
Mm.
I think that Bahia might be biting, taking a little too much, because
Mm.
he's the one with the stuff to lose here. He's got the
Yeah.
belts to lose. And I feel like getting a late notice title fight is easier to go in there kind of loose and free as opposed to a last minute title defense. I would
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong. Again, not a fighter, but in my mind, I would think like, hey, I'd just be stuck. I'm getting a title fight. Fuck yeah, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna, you know, I'm loose as a goose. Like I'm doing a favor
Yeah.
for the UFC. Like this is all good. Worst case scenario is I wake up tomorrow and I have as many belts as I have now, which is none. If I go if I go out there and
Yeah.
I leave it all in the cage and I go beat this dude who I was winning up until basically I got caught.
Left hooked or whatever it was. Yeah.
So I like both guys' mindsets. I just and there is something to be said about having broken toes. I'm not trying to discredit the pain or what that might be like. I'm just surprised to see somebody pull out of a fight with a single broken toe. If Pahea has multiple broken toes, that obviously could, you know, I was already saying if I'm Michael Chandler, like I'm training with friggin' Marco Huas. I'm learning the foot stomps. I'm pushing
Yeah.
McGregor up against that cage and I'm stomping the hell. I'm making him tap to a broken toe. Like
Yeah.
at this point. So I don't, but that'll be down the line maybe. But yeah, I'm taking Prohaska. I think he wins. I think it's a very good, exciting fight. I think it's an exciting fight no matter who wins. Um, I'm really happy about the fight. I can't. I mean,
Yeah.
again, credit
No.
where credit is due. Considering what fell apart in the UFC's lap to be able to pull this off in 3 weeks prior to the event is pretty miraculous, really.
Yeah, no, they talk about that. I mean, I mean, the room that they plan this stuff in, they call it the war room, and it's definitely with all the card saving they've done, they've definitely pulled it off with this one for sure, especially on this week. I mean, it's still like I feel like it's more. I mean, I can't go. It's my dad's birthday that Saturday, so I won't be going to Vegas. But um, if I was going, I would still, and I would do exactly like you did. I'd flip my ticket to get some money back, and I'd still go. I'd still go to International Fight Week.
It's still UFC.
Mhm.
It's a great fight. Again,
Mhm.
had it been a softer fight, something else, probably just would have bailed on it. But they did a good job. They make me somebody who tends to bitch about
Yeah,
some of the
if they
newer
put
stuff,
Holly Holm
you
versus
know?
somebody,
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
be
yeah,
like, no,
yeah.
I want my
Yeah,
money
like
back.
I was reaching out to some of my people behind the scenes, and when I heard there was a title fight, I was like, as long as it's not Buena Silva Bennington 2, like we're talking here. But if that's what you throw at me, that we'll save that for Canada because we know how the UFC likes to do that. But I don't know. Fun fight. International Fight Week, Hall of Fame Thursday. Joanna Shogun Vanderlei. Amazing,
Yeah,
amazing
that's got to be
lineup
good
for
time.
that. Um, Expo or whatever form of expo they got running these days is
Mhm.
Friday, Saturday. Um, Weigh-ins. Dude, we forgot to mention the other huge note of combat sports. Paige Van Zant moving into slap fighting.
Oh yeah, that's for
Uh,
the Friday before. Isn't that this Friday?
the Friday before, they've sold a whole
Yeah,
like 100 tickets for the most popular sport in the thing. So
yeah.
ticket prices have dropped for that one too. By the way, they dropped like a good
Oh,
30% across the board. Cheap side was 99, now it's down to 69.
shocker.
Uh, yeah. So and I wouldn't be surprised to see another drop, considering that there's probably 75% of the seat, 70% of the arena still available.
They should
Uh,
just do them along with like they should be a package. Oh, you get it with your UFC ticket purchase. At this point, like if you're
but
going
why
to
would you do that if it's the most popular sport of all time? You wouldn't have to do that, right?
yeah,
Like this
yeah.
isn't,
It's got more followers than the NFL and all that stuff, and
because remember
yeah.
Dana said, the buy one get one free thing for PFL was a joke. So when you got the most powerful organization in the world slap fighting, um, you think it would carry itself, and you know
yeah.
there's no way that 3/4 of the tickets gone off ticket or access or comped either. There's no way people have spent $250 to watch slap fighting. Um, with that said, also Friday. Why don't you tell the fans what we got going in the MMA world?
Oh yeah, Invicta FC. If you're home and you're not in Vegas like Matt's gonna be, you get to watch Invicta FC 55. For everyone that thought Invicta FC was down and out, they were just sitting quietly and planning their return. First event in a while, CBS Sports, first of 5 events. Um, so for folks that say CBS Sports, how do I watch that? Well, if you have Amazon Prime, you have Prime Video. If you don't, please use our affiliate link to sign up for it so you can get Amazon Prime and Prime Video. Hit your live TV option, look for sports, and the first thing that pops up is CBS Sports. So you will be able to watch Invicta FC 55 on Friday. It's their first event in a while, and I'm really looking forward to it. I know Kay Hansen's on the card. I already forgot what the main event was. It was we just looked it up before we started. And I don't know why it slipped my mind.
Bernardo and
Rubin, Olga Rubin.
Obogo Ruben. Yep, title
Yeah,
fight.
title fight. So like a fun weekend, whether you're in Vegas or not. Some good fights to watch.
Yep, I look forward to it. I hope everybody enjoys the weekend. Fans can follow the show at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. Ed, look forward to talking to you from Vegas. Have a happy birthday with your father, and or have your father have a happy birthday with you, I should say,
Yeah, yeah.
and and enjoy your weekend, brother.
Peace.